certainly can. So, just to remind everybody, we had a hearing last month, and you had a number of questions, and you requested some drone footage. So we have all of that prepared. What you do have in your, I believe on your desk, or you received a supplemental packet, is a response from the applicant to the 9, I believe there were 9 questions that were originally posed. And I just need to quickly go over, this is proper to bring in. This is now part of the record, the letter you received from the applicant. So that's into the record, and that's their response. We can talk about this more as we get into it. There is also another party in opposition submitted 2 letters to the chair and to staff, and I don't believe anybody else. Those pieces of correspondence are not part of the record, and they're not going to be talked about because they were submitted after the close of the public hearing. So I'm just making sure that everybody knows that. And if you received that, you should discount, if you read it, I hope you didn't, that anything that you received should be discounted because it wasn't done here at the public hearing. So that's the kind of the basis of where we're at. Why do we do that? And why isn't that fair to the opposition? The opposition had their chance at the hearing, and that was the time for pro-con debate. And you had questions. Now it's time for the questions are answered. You could have more questions today, and that could be for the applicant or an opponent as well. And that they would come on up to the podium and they will answer the question only. They won't be allowed to expand. If you have a question, we'll narrowly tailor it, and they'll give a chance to respond. But that's it. There's no more public debate on this. Okay. So we can go through, I know Matt, you were around 10 minutes on the drone footage.
Yes.
It wasn't out, you asked for, and this is good, you wanted to see different things when we were together last. And I think they originally had an hour's worth of footage.
Correct.
And that got chopped down to 18 minutes, and then I said, let's go for 10. And so they got it to 10. Well, why I say that is if you see something and you want more, we'll have different angles and we can find it. 10 minutes is going to seem like a long time now, but again, we're responding to what you wanted. So I think what would be most appropriate now would be to watch the drone footage. And then when we come back, you can ask questions of us if you want as staff or the applicant or opponent, and then it would be time to make a motion. Okay?
Can we just make it clear to others that we were asked not to visit the property, and that's why we're doing the drone footage?
Absolutely.
Not because we're lazy or...
No. Absolutely. Yep, you can't go out and visit it on your own. You can't drive by it. Everybody has to see it at once. We could have taken a bus out. We didn't do that. We droned it. So, good point. That's why we're here. So, Matt, you want to roll it?
Is there a narrative with it so we know what we're looking at, or?
Well, there's words. You can read them and tell you what direction it is.
Okay.
The existing building right now.
So you ask for a high view of it, then a street view of it, and then where the bridge is located.
So the big black roof, that's what's presently there now?
Correct.
And is that thing right here a house, or?
That's part of it.
Okay.
It's all one big building.
And some of the neighbors were fine with it, and others were not.
Is that the proposed parking lot then, Matt, what we're looking at near the bottom of the screen?
Yes.
Is that all the parking lot there then, or is there additional parking?
This would be where the parking lot would be.
Okay.
Is that thing to the left a residence or another business?
Pause it now, sorry.
Or the surrounding property?
I can go back.
So that place
Here?
to the left, is that a private residence or a business?
No, that's a private, used to be a grocery store and it's a lodge now. 4-bedroom lodge. Lulabelle's Lodge, I think it's called. So this is showing you the houses around the facility. So that would be the dock side. This is the back side of the bowling alley.
Is it a bowling alley that's abandoned or?
Yeah.
Is that part of the property that they own?
Yeah, it's all one big.
Is that a house there or is that part of?
Bowling alley is part of the existing building then? Yes?
Yes, it's all one
Okay.
big building. It's got all kinds of additions on it,
Yeah.
and different styles of construction, but it's all one big building. This is looking at it from the lake towards the building. That's the house you were talking about, that's Lulabelle's Lodge.
And then that house right there with the
And
parking,
that's Stockside.
That's a restaurant.
the restaurant?
Is that building condemned or just empty?
The current building on the site,
Mm-hmm.
you could probably ask the applicant, I'm not positive if they're open or closed. I know yeah, you'll have to ask the applicant. So we're going down the street towards the bridge, where these guardrails are, is where there's a culvert underneath the road.
Is this the bridge that was referred to in our?
Correct. So this would be the yacht club on the left where the flag is.
With the next day in the road?
And that turns back towards the intersection where the building is. The yacht club. On the back side, and the Blue Bells, and then this building.
Okay, so stop, if you can stop your screen. So, do we have anything of this bridge that they were referring to will not hold the traffic? Is it referred to in here? Do they refer to that in this paper? 'Cause it just doesn't look like a very, it looks like a, you know.
Secondary bridge.
So, yeah. So, I mean, that was a question that was brought up in the open hearing. Was that addressed in this here by them? Or was that not a question we asked?
No, that was not he wanted the bridge droned, but it was the weight and the,
Oh, that's not on like
That's
the
not-
engineering report or
no.
anything?
and that's not something, that's not part of the site. That's
Okay,
a different, that's completely off-site, not something we would do on an approach.
okay.
We would not approach, we would
We would not, no, we would, that isn't,
So we
that's
can't
not our-
approve it or disapprove it because of the bridge weight limit, so
Right.
that's what you're telling us.
That's something that is the jurisdiction that's their town municipality, or if they have issues with it.
yeah, we're not in
We're out
the,
of it.
we're his bridge business in that instance.
Okay, thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying that.
Matt, that's just a driveway, that dark pavement that was going out towards the right, up and to the right, that was a driveway.
Correct.
Matt, at some point, do we get to see the little bit on the north portion, that's the primary environmental corridor?
You mean where the trees hang over the top of the building?
Well, it conforms with kind of land use, it says it's zone C commercial with a small portion of PEC primary environmental corridor on the north end.
Yeah, I can turn on the GIS image that'll show where the corridor is on the property.
How big of a parcel section is it?
The whole parcel is 2.79 acres, I believe,
9-4.
or
Environmental
9.4.
corridor.
Oh, how big is the environmental corridor?
Yeah.
Well, when I turn on that slide, you'll be able to see in approximate how large it would be on the 2.94 acre parcel.
That's
We can turn that on. Okay, now I think Chris is gonna videotape what it looks like driving down the streets.
This must be on Monday at 1 o'clock or something. 2 o'clock.
Those two roads to the right, those are roads, not driveways, correct?
Correct.
Beach Road would intersect with Highway ES or National.
The first one was Katie, right?
Right. I think you'll go down it, or up it one way or the other.
National that goes all the way to Milwaukee.
Yep.
So here I asked Chris if he could go around the corner here, just to show what the retaining wall looks like behind the building. I didn't hit anything. You got really close to these branches though. So this is past, the road that's at the back of the building. one that Mike was talking about.
Yeah, so you're on Beach going towards Highway, yes. Now
This is
you've
coming
turned
down.
around.
So then you'll turn down Beach this direction, along the parking lot.
Oh, I was off, I'm sorry.
This dead ends right behind the parking lot.
I don't remember if they had a plan for, some training and drainage.
In the response letter that they provided, they indicate they're gonna put pervious pavers or pervious block pavers in.
Go through the parking lot.
Yes, allow drainage to go in.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Matt. If I could, before we start. So I just want to preface some of the questions, especially for the new members. So the way it works with the new law in the state of Wisconsin, so we as staff put conditions on the conditional uses recommendations. And we do that in two ways. We have standard conditions and then we have specific conditions. And the standard conditions we do every time with whatever it might be, hair salon, hotel, whatever the thing is. We have a whole pack of standard conditions. Then we have specific conditions. So Matt did that was prepared for the public hearing, and the applicant agreed with those specific and general conditions. At the public hearing, there were a number of issues raised, and you had questions about those issues, and we wrote them all down, if you remember. Some of the issues that were brought up, we did not ask for as a general or a specific condition, and we wouldn't as staff. We questioned that to the applicant for the purpose that the applicant could say, yeah, we'll do this, or no, we won't do that. Each answers is appropriate from the applicant. We're not holding them to something. I'll start out with the environmental impact study. That's not something we asked for. And the applicant said in their response that there's no requirement, and that I will let their response speak for themselves. I don't want that to be seen as a negative, because that's not something that we do. That's not something we require, and it would be completely out of the ordinary for us to require it when we don't for everybody else. Follow me? So I just want to make sure that that's, before we get into this too much, you might say, well, I wanted an environmental impact study. Well, if we can't tie it in and it's not substantially related to the project, then we're violating that Act 67. Okay, so that's kind of the baseline, and something for you to think about as you go through this. The public, or many other members sitting in the audience, think, boy, the county sure gives me enough conditions, I don't need any more. So if anything, we give quite a few conditions on the front end. So just wanted to lay that out for you and give you something to think about.
I have a question. So there was a question about the well and the water and all that, and that's in 3, okay? So we don't, they declined to do the well study because wells and well permits are generally part of the DNR. So if the project was approved and then they did the well study or whatever, then DNR would shut them down correctly if they're proved to be some type of detriment to the lake or to the water or to something like that. That's their jurisdiction, correct?
I'll answer it this way. It's the DNR's jurisdiction with the well. And in our standard condition, it says you have to be compliant with all state, local, and federal rules and regulations. So they have to be in compliance with the DNR in order to get their permit.
So if there is issues, that's gonna be the DNR that's gonna handle that, not us as a county.
Correct. That's a good example though, again, where we say, you asked, will you do a well study? And if they said yes, then great, and they would have done it. If they say no, it's equally fine because it's not something we would require. For example, Lodge at Geneva Ridge, we didn't require a well study on that one, just thinking of another hotel.